Welcome back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm glad to have Bob Moriarty with me once again. He is the proprietor of the very popular website, 321gold.com, but he is also one of the most colorful characters that I have met in my 72 years on Earth. Robert was born in New York City in 1946, which means he's just a whisker older than I am, and he began training as a military pilot in 1965, done some extremely interesting things in his life, not the least of which is what he's doing in the gold space and the exploration space, too. That's a very, very interesting story there. And that's what we want to talk to him today about. Three of his favorite gold stocks, at least three that he likes very much anyway. I don't know if I want to say that they are exactly his favorite three, but they're three that he likes a lot and three that are among my top picks as well. Welcome, Bob, and thanks for joining me again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always good to hear from you, Bob. And, I should tell our listeners that I had wanted to talk to you about basic investing in resource stocks, The Idiot's Guide. That's a new book that you've just recently written. But then I found out that actually, some of these stocks that I just mentioned or that we're about to talk about are on the verge of having some very important news, most likely in the next several weeks anyway, if not days. And so we figured we better not delay with them. Let's talk about some of these names right away. And I want to get your take on them because these are some of my favorites. I own them and have recommended them to my subscribers. So let's jump right into it, Bob, okay?
Okay, very good. Now, before we cover these stocks, here's what I would like to do.
Okay.
Do you remember who the first person was to recommend Nova Gold?
Nova Gold was you.
No, Nova Gold.
Oh, Nova, I don't know.
You.
Oh, Nova. Yes, that's right. I'm getting old now. My memory isn't too good, but that was a winner. I should never forget. That was a big winner. I should never forget that one.
Well, here's my point. You recommended when it was 30 cents a share in 2001.
Yep.
It went down to 13 cents a share.
Yep.
In the summer of 2001, just prior to going to $20.
That's right.
By 2007.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
My point is you have to take apparent risk to make money.
To make that kind of money, you really do.
Yeah. We're going to talk about three stocks that appear to be risky now, but actually they're great potential stocks. All
right, let's jump right into it. You want to tackle Miramont Resources first, traded MOT Toronto, 54.8 million shares, I think around 38 cents in U.S. money today, giving it a market cap of around 21 million. You want to start with that one?
Yeah. Okay. Miramont is a Quentin Henney chairman company. Bill Harris is the president. He's down there. They've been drilling since February. It's a diatreme. Now, a diatreme is nothing complex. It's a volcanic pipe in the same kind of way that you have volcanic pipes for diamonds, except this has limestone, and then you have the fluids coming up center and spreading out. They have three major targets in the diatreme. Mm-hmm. He's finished drilling the first two targets. There will be drill results from the first target probably in the next week to 10 days. Could go to the end of the month, but look for results. The stock was as little as 13 cents a share back in November. Canadian, it's about 50 cents a share now. It's still very cheap, and actually of all of the stocks I'm going to talk about, it will go up the most in percentage terms should they hit something. And since they've got three major targets, I think the chances of them hitting something substantial are very high.
Yeah, we should mention, I don't know if we did, that's in Peru, southern Peru, I believe, right?
Yeah, southern Peru. They've got two big targets down there. They're drilling the Cerro Hermosa project right now.
All right. And that's the one they're focusing on first. And the other one is quite interesting too. But I think they're giving this their priority right now. And so when do you have any idea when they might start working on the second project?
Well, the second project is very close to Chile, and there's some legal issues about drilling until you have permission from the military. So it's kind of up in the air. They do have a second major project, but it's on the back burner for right now.
All right. So, of course, I should mention, you mentioned that Quentin Henning is the chairman of that company. Quentin is involved with all three companies we're going to talk about. The next one is Irving Resources, trades in Toronto under the symbol IRV, in the U.S. IRVRF, 43.5 million shares, $1.38 I saw in U.S. money earlier today, giving it a market cap of around $60 million. And they are operating in Japan, actually, and Quentin Henning, he gets all around the world everywhere, this guy. Talk to us about what they've got going there in Japan.
Okay, this is a project I would highly recommend anyone interested go to their website and read through the press releases. If you do some calculations of the surface samples they've already taken, I have been there. I have held $25,000 a ton rock in my hand at surface. Now, it's an interesting project because Japan is very sensitive to chemicals. You probably could not permit a project using cyanide, but these projects are very silica-rich, and their tests so far have shown they can ship the material as I'm trying to think of the word for it. You could ship it to steel manufacturers, and they would use it to help melt steel. Yeah, and they would actually pay for the silica, and you would get paid 95% of the recoveries for gold and silver. Yeah. But Keith Barron went to the project, and he picked up a rock, and he had it sampled, and it was $35,000 a ton. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I have never heard or seen gold that rich. Now, that's going to be quite interesting, and I've got some wonderful news for anybody who is an Irving shareholder. They actually started drilling today.
Oh, okay.
You can expect results to be out in 6 to 8 weeks. They're drilling a sinter. Now, that sounds very technical, but it's nothing but a quartz cap over a hot spring system, and the minerals are trapped underneath the quartz cap, and they get very rich. It's a blind target, and they have to go in and just poke holes and see what they can find, but it could get quite interesting. Quentin's going to drill 8 holes. They're 300 to 400 meters apiece. He'll be announcing results 2 or 3 holes at a time, and results will start coming out in 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and there's it should be mentioned that in Japan, it's not the easiest place for foreigners to enter. I think the connection with Akiko Levin, who is the president of the company, is a key to that. Wouldn't you say, Bob?
Absolutely. Akiko is Japanese. She's a wonderful person. She met her husband, married him. He unfortunately died. She took over the company. She hired Quentin about 10 years ago to take a look at it. He came in, cleaned it up. They sold that company and did quite well doing that. And the Japanese projects were a spin-off from Gold Canyon. But she's Japanese. She understands the issues with culture, and those are substantial. But the target in Hokkaido has never been subject to modern exploration. It could be explosive. The highest grade gold mine in the entire world is in Japan. It's the Hichikari gold mine. And my view is this has the potential of being another Hichikari.
That's very exciting, no doubt about it. Okay, the last but not least, Novo Resources. NVO in Toronto, NSRPF in the U.S., 163.7 million shares, excuse me, selling at around $2.10 in U.S. money today, giving it a market cap of $344, well, $344 million, I should say. And this is a company that, of course, 2017, they had a breakout year with the discovery in Australia. Where does that stand now, Bob? Because, the nuggeting effect, the difficulty, it's an unconventional project, most difficult to assay, to really understand what you have and then how to mine it economically. Those are the challenges. Talk to us a little bit about where Novo stands right now.
Well, the interesting thing about Novo and what they have in Cararton and Beach Creek is the gold people have known about for almost 150 years.
Yeah.
Gold was discovered in the Pilbara, I think, a year after the Witwatersrand was discovered. But because the gold is so nuggety, it's very hard to measure. You cannot measure the gold with drilling. You can only measure the gold by mining. And that's created a real problem. And a lot of people have been very negative on Novo. They're saying, well, you can't measure it, then you haven't got it. But if you think about that from a logical point of view, it doesn't make any difference what the nuggety effect is if the grade is the same. The grade at Karratha and the grade in the Pilbara is the same grade as in the Witwatersrand, and I believe that Quentin will crack the code in the next year. But meanwhile, he's going to be doing a lot of testing in the Egina region, literally starting as soon as summer is over, which is the end of this month. Mm-hmm. So there will be a lot of news. But I think that in 6 months, all of the naysayers will be proven wrong. And I think that's going to be a real big hit.
Well, no doubt about it. I mean, it's the most expensive of the three that we're talking about now in terms of market cap and all. But one of the things about Quentin Henning is he is a creative thinker. He thinks outside of the box. Unconventional thinking brought him to the Western Australia to look for the next Witwatersrand deposit. And, because, as you say, 150 years ago, they knew there was a lot of gold there. They knew there was gold, but it was nuggety. But it was a notion that wasn't just, a small area, but that vast amounts of gold through these conglomerate sheets, very, similar in many ways to what they found in the Wits that led Quentin there. Would also say that in terms of exploring and in terms of actual production with sorting, new technologies, he's always thinking outside the box. And going back to Irving, the Irving story there. There's a lot of bamboo, as I understand it, Bob. You were there, but it's very difficult, as I understand it, to be able to walk the grounds and so to do the normal exploring. So what they've done is used drones in some instances to be able to do testing, to do geophysics and so forth that they would have normally done, walking the outcrop, so to speak. So Quentin is a very unusual man. You know him very well, better than I do. I've learned to really admire him, think highly of him. He's an independent thinker. He won't let anybody tell him or give him marching orders because I guess he listens to people. That's not true to say he's a stubborn guy, but he's always able to think outside of the box more than anyone else I've known in this business. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely would. I've known Quentin for 10 years. He's my best friend in mining. We've gone to stay with him. He's come to stay with us. You could talk to Quentin for 15 minutes and you will learn more than with anybody else that I know in the industry. And he absolutely listens to other people,
yes,
think about it. And if you're wrong, he'll tell you why you're wrong. And if you're right, he'll change his way of thinking. Mm-hmm. It's an absolute pleasure to work with. And I personally believe, it's just my opinion, that he's going to have 3 home runs out of the box this year.
All right. Merrimont, Irving Resources, and Novo Resources, all 3 companies of which Quentin is an integral part of the exploration efforts with those companies. Bob, thank you so much for being with us, and hopefully we'll get you back possibly as early as next week to talk about your book and another company that you really have your eyes on. I think could be another exciting story. So thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.